Welcome to the Menorcan Heritage Audio Guide. Menorca has a past rich in culture and heritage, thanks to the legacy left by the various inhabitants of this island, and has almost 2,000 sites and monuments from different periods. We have a network of 28 monuments from this past, which represent a summary of this legacy. For visiting, the places, themes and schedules of each can be checked on the official website www.menorcamonumental.org. In order to understand this wealth, we need to know some of the history that has shaped a special landscape and a way of doing things. So we have made a chronological summary of the history of the island, giving examples of significant places to visit, where you can immerse yourself in the past of this land. The island was first populated almost 4,000 years ago, at the time known as pre-Talaiotic. A second wave of settlers came in the year 1400 BC, beginning the development of a new culture called Talaiotic, which coincides with the Bronze Age. More than 1,000 megalithic monuments dating back to this time can be found in Menorca. For this reason, it is said that the island is truly an open-air museum. Some of these are included in the network of monuments and can be visited. The appearance of talaiots, large towers with surveillance functions, marks the splendour of the megalithic culture. These are placed at the highest points of the villages, from where the villagers could communicate with other neighbouring settlements. At the same time, the navetas appeared. They took their name from their similarity to an inverted boat. These were used as ceremonial burial sites. But the most characteristic and unique monument of the island is probably the taula, or table. Their purpose is to this day unknown, but there are considered to be three hypotheses: that they were altars for sacrifice, that they were the central pillar of enclosures, or they were used to perform rites of sun worship. To delve deeper into the Talaiotic culture, you can visit Torredongalmes, which is the most significant settlement of this civilization. You can tour the whole area and visit the Interpretation Center. At Torralba d'en Solort, you will find the best preserved taula on the island. Naveta de Studons is special for its morphology, and Calas Covas is an example of one of the most important burial grounds of the Balearic Islands, with more than 100 funeral caves. You can also visit the Taula de Talatí de Dalt, the Taula de Trepucó, the necropolis of Cala Morell, and the Son Carlar settlement, noted for its cyclopean walls. At the Museum of Menorca and the Municipal Museum of Ciutadella, which contain materials representative of human occupation on the island, you will find rooms dedicated to prehistoric and ancient history. Until the year 123 BC, when the Romans conquered Menorca, the island was occupied successively by Phoenicians, Greeks and Carthaginians, who found in this place a strategic point for their trade routes throughout the Mediterranean. At this time, the city of Maul was founded in the eastern region by the Punic people, and legend says that the origin of its name came from General Magon, Hannibal's brother. In addition, to the west, the city of Ciutadella was founded by the Greeks, Phoenicians and Carthaginians, and was known as Jamma. Roman rule lasted until 902 BC. From this time, we have remains such as the Paleo-Christian basilicas of Fornas de Torelló, Son Bou and Cap de Sport of Fornells. We also have the remains of the Roman city of Sanija at Cap de Cavalleria. All these can be visited. After several raids by the Vandals, the Muslim people invaded the island. This marked a new milestone for the Menorcan people, a dependence on the Caliphate of Córdoba. From this time, the ruins of the castle of Santa Águeda in Ferrarias remain, and many place names of yocks or old farmhouses, such as those that carry the prefix bini or son, which mean son of or house of. On the 17th of January 1287, Catalan troops arrived and conquered the island, and from that time on, the island has remained Christian. King Alphonse III of Aragon and his troops landed at the port of Mar. Shortly afterwards, the Muslims, who had remained hidden in the castle of Santa Agueda, surrendered their weapons. The island was repopulated with people loyal to the crown from l'Empordà region, and noble titles and lands were granted to the victorious. A dominant noble and clergy class was established, especially in Ciutadella, which was the capital. New churches were built on top of mosques, of which no traces remain except at the cathedral, where 2 minarets can be found. During this period, the towns of Es Mercadal, Ferrerías and Alaior were founded, situated between the established urban areas of Mar and Ciutadella. These served to bring together the rural population who were living in scattered farmsteads. Sandstone was used in the construction of their houses. This was extracted from the foundations of the site where the homes were built, so many of them had basements. Sandstone was also extracted from quarries near the city. To learn more about the quarries and the extraction process, you can visit the Pedreres de Sustal, included in the monument network. At this time, the dry walls that characterized the Menorcan fields started to appear. These were used to divide the land among new settlers. The peculiarity of these walls is that they are constructed without any mortar, so the stones are supported by each other. This technique is still being used today and can also be seen in the construction of bridges and shelters for livestock. In the 14th century, starting in Ciutadella, the popular festivals came into being. They are of religious origin, and the focal point is the horse. They are very special and are part of the cultural heritage of the island. You can experience these festivities in any Menorcan town from June to September. In Menorca there is a large tradition surrounding the Menorcan horse, one of the few totally black breeds of horse still preserved in Europe. In later times, the island went through difficult periods due to frequent invasions and incursions by Turkish pirates. Most infamous was the landing of the pirate Redbeard in Mar in 1535, and the assault of the Turks in 1558, known as the Year of the Misfortune, because of the damage caused to Ciutadella. There are many popular songs and stories associated with these incidents, which are also part of the cultural heritage. To protect themselves, the Menorcans built small fortified rectangular towers in some llocs or farmhouses, where farmers put up resistance during the looting. In this era, coastal watchtowers were built, which communicated with each other using fire signals. In towns, people headed to the church to hide. Some of the churches looked like fortifications because the buttresses were strengthened to make them safer as a refuge. Examples are the Cathedral of Menorca in Ciutadella and the Church of Santa Eulalia in Alaior. In the 16th century, the Spaniards built the castle of San Felipe to defend the harbour of Mar from the privateers. In the late 17th century, the picturesque fishing village of Fornens was created around the castle of Sant Antoni. The remains of this fortress can still be visited. The most splendid and culturally rich period was probably the 18th century, during which the island was in British hands 3 times. There was also a short French domination and a Spanish one. In almost 100 years of English rule, many infrastructures were created which are still in use today, such as Keynes Road, named after the then governor of the island, and which links Mar to Ciutadella. The port of Mar acquired importance as a commercial stopping-off point in the Mediterranean, enriching the city and creating a wealthy bourgeois class, which took over from the nobility and the clergy, the ruling classes until then. Mar became the capital of Menorca during the British occupation and has remained so to date. To protect the port, several defensive fortifications were created. such as Fort Marlborough, included in the monument network. Moreover, the British extended the castle of St. Philippe, making it one of the most important fortifications in Europe. It was subsequently destroyed by the Spaniards. The remains of this fort can be visited and historical representations can be seen. Around this fortification, the village of Castell was founded. This was an enclave established by the English under the name of Georgetown, in order to house the families of the builders that were expanding the castle of St. Philippe. The Camí de Cavalls also connects numerous watchtowers along the coast, such as the Tower of Fornells, recently restored and also included in the monument network. English architectural influences can be found in some villages and country houses. Sash windows, red facades with white details, and boindas, from the English bow window, are among other typical features of the British culture of the time. There are also other words that have remained in the Menorcan dialect, including choc and mervils, meaning chalk and marbles. Such words are only used in this variant of the Catalan dialect. During the second British domination, the town of Es Migjorn Gran was founded, built around the church of San Cristòfol. During the short French rule from 1756 to 1763, the town of Saint Louis was founded, with a rectilinear layout typical of the French style. It was at this time that, according to legend, the Duke of Richelieu popularized a sauce he had tried in Menorca, which would be known as mayonnaise. In the late 18th and early 19th century, the historical important church organs of the island were built, one in the Sucors Church in Ciutadella and another in the Santa Maria Church in Maó. Today, summer concerts are regularly held in both churches, as well as in the Cathedral of Menorca. On the signing of the Treaty of Amiens in 1802, the island was conceded to the Spanish crown. In the early 19th century, an architect from Florence built the principal opera theatre of Maó, 20 years before the Liceu Theatre of Barcelona and the Real Theatre of Madrid. Every year we enjoy 2 weeks of international opera, among other performances. In the 19th century, the villages of Saint Clement and Umassanas were founded. You can visit the fort of La Mola, dating back to the reign of Isabel II in the 19th century. This was built to protect the port of Maó, following the demolition of St. Philippe by the Spaniards. The fortress is very well preserved. There you can find traces of its recent history in the military batteries of the early 20th century. The fortress has a reception centre where all kinds of tours are organised. During the 19th and 20th century, 7 lighthouses were built on the island, due to the numerous shipwrecks that occurred in its coastal waters. These are, in chronological order, the lighthouse of San Felipe Castle in Maó Harbour, the lighthouse of Cavalleria, the Artruch lighthouse, L'Illa de l'Aire, Safarola, the lighthouse of Puntanati, and Favarich. All of them are closed to the public, except Artruch lighthouse, part of which has been a restaurant since 2010. From the time of the Spanish Civil War, we can see the remains of trenches and gun batteries along the Menorcan coast, and also some tunnels for shelter constructed under the towns. On the Alayor guided tour, for example, you can visit one of those tunnels. It was between the 19th and 20th century that industrialization marked a change in the manner of working on the island. New ventures started up: a textile industry, an engineering industry, and the footwear and silver purse industries, which exported their goods from Menorca. In Maó, the first power station of the Balearic Islands was inaugurated. In the early 20th century, most of these industries were substituted by the production of costume jewellery and cheese-making. However, there is still a thriving shoe industry. In the 1970s,